3, 2. On today's show, Julius Randle makes his debut for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Is it going to work as much as they think it's going to? And Lonzo makes his return to the court too. Is he going to work as much as he thinks he's going to? We'll talk about all that and more on today's Locked On NBA. Let's go.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome. You are Locked On to the NBA. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show, making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day on any podcast platform. Leave us a 5-star review, like the video on YouTube, and comment anything below. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet. You can get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And joining me from the Locked On Bucks, the great Camille Daivs. What you got for me?
Listen, enjoying the WNBA Finals. It has been so fantastic, good. Nick.
So good. Absolutely so good. We will talk about that. I've got to count it up for that a little bit later. We'll do count it up where we count out the most interesting, fun things in the NBA, where we'll bring up Sabrina Ionescu's shot tonight because goodness gracious. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the NBA and some more interesting things that happened this week. And we'll also talk about the Cavs and the Pistons. I'm interested in the Pistons. We saw their starting lineup tonight, and so we'll talk about that and how they looked. We'll also talk about the Heat. Their starting lineup seems to be set. Spo has some things to say about his starting backcourt, and he doesn't want anybody questioning it. So we'll talk about that. But let's start here, Camille. We got to see the debut of Julius Randle. The Bulls beat the Minnesota Timberwolves 125-123, but the score doesn't matter in preseason. The records all go away. It doesn't matter. But Julius Randle got his debut, got started there for the Timberwolves. What did you see from Randle in his first start?
Listen, Randle came out, I think he had, 5 of the first Wolves 7 points. So he came out looking pretty good. At sometimes it was like a struggle for him, but like a little rusty at times. But all in all, you can see the grit he's going to bring to this Wolves team. Like, it's going to be a little bit of a different personality, I think, for them. They were already known as like a defensive team, but I think what Randle adds is going to be just that grittiness of it all. But I am curious about the spacing, given where he likes to work on the floor next to Gobert.
Yeah, I reached out to Ben Beacon of Locked On Wolves, and I was just like, what's your big takeaway? And I had already written this down. I'm glad he used the same word as mine. Clunky. Yeah, it looks a little clunky. Now, it's their first game. Randle hasn't played since February. It's their first game together and all that. But the thing about Julius Randle that's really cool for the Timberwolves, and it's nice, and that's the same word that Ben used too. He used the word nice, that Randle can set a screen and he can also run a pick and roll as the ball handler. So he can come up and set a screen for Mike Conley, set a screen for Anthony Edwards, but then he could also have Gobert set a screen for him. Those Randle-Gobert like pick and rolls where Randle was the ball handler in this game.
Crazy.
They're crazy looking, but they were so clunky and the spacing is so weird. And there's a couple of them that just did not work in this game. It's a nice idea. You can see what he can bring to the game, but yeah, they're going to have to work some things out of it, and they're going to need good shooters. Like, I think Nas and Dante DiVincenzo got more valuable on this team after just seeing Randle for one game.
They absolutely did, because again, the spacing, it's going to be a question offensively for him. And you did see in this game too, they ran a lot of 3-guard lineups. And I wonder if that's something that we're going to see from them in the regular season as well, given the fact that they did get a Dante over there, somebody who can shoot 40% from 3 at this point. So I wonder if we're going to continue to just see that type of mix when it comes to Minnesota there. And Josh Minott looks like he actually might be someone who can come in and contribute this year, which they needed, because the forward rotation / big rotation is a little thin in Minnesota as well.
Yeah, no Nas Reed in this game, so Randle got to play some 5. But yeah, Josh Minott putting in 18 points, hitting 3 threes as well, getting to the rim a couple times. Man, all right. This guy coming out of nowhere. So great to see that for sure. Minnesota played Julius Randle at the 5s. Again, Nas Reed wasn't playing. What do you think about Randle playing the 5? Because they didn't like to do that very much in New York.
They're going to be a little small when they go that route, which is the opposite of what we gotten used to from Minnesota over the last 2 years with their double big lineup. Like, I think it can work in certain situations, like if they're also facing against a team that doesn't have much size. But I don't think that's something you want to lean on primarily, especially if you're going up against like a Denver or something like that.
Yeah, that was like their superpower. They could go with these huge lineups. Obviously, the starting one with Randle and Gobert and Jaden McDaniels. He's like 6'10", he's like 6'9", 6'10" too. I mean, he's huge. Put the three of them together, and then you take off Cat and you put in Naz Reid, who's also just a big dude. And then you can move Cat to 5, Naz Reid to 4, Jaden McDaniels to 4, and you still just had all that size. And that, like you said, that's what helped them beat the Nuggets. But yeah, with Randle at the 5, it just looked a little like they didn't have their superpower necessarily. It's going to be a lot on Anthony Edwards this season. They did get more shooting with Dante. Maybe if a Josh Minot works out and is another shooter for them, that'll help them a ton. But yeah, it's just going to be a lot on Anthony Edwards on offense.
And he was putting those threes up tonight. I mean, he's been doing it all preseason. So it's like, I wonder if that's something that he's also cognitive of like, you know what? I'm going to have to get a few more threes up this year than I did before. I've heard that that's something that he was working on this summer, just trying to get more consistent with that 3 ball. So I think they're going to need it.
He saw Sabrina Ionescu, who's like a Kobe disciple, right? Spoke at Kobe's funeral. And wasn't the great Kobe quote, I'd rather have somebody shoot 0 for 20 instead of 0 for 5, because if you shot 0 for 5, you stop shooting, right? Like 3 of 13 from 3 for Dante DiVincenzo, 3 of 16 for Anthony Edwards from 3. I mean, those guys were jacking him up. Minnesota, 28 threes attempted in the first half.
Listen, when Anthony Edwards, you said he shot how many tonight all by himself?
16.
Like, like you got him and you got Dante, another guy who is like a 3-point merchant. So like they're going to get up a lot of threes. But if you look at it, I mean, between the two of them, that's what, 29 threes between just Edwards and Dante. Like they're going to be like half of the team's 3-point, attempts at this rate.
Yeah. Randle didn't get any up. He played 26 minutes. Yeah, Nickeil Alexander-Walker took 5. Everybody else took less than that. But looking to the other side, Lonzo Ball made his return. He hasn't played in, I don't know, since Big Baller Brand had a TV show on Facebook. I mean, it's been a long time. It's been a long time since we've seen Lonzo. He gets back, gets a standing ovation from the crowd there in Chicago. Gotta love it. He hits his first shot. He hits a corner 3, looked real smooth. Then he gets a steal off of Randle in the corner, which is kind of nice. It was like a nod to like their Lakers time. And it was cool to see Lonzo Ball back. He looked like he had not missed any time really.
He was one of my favorite players in the league. So the last 2.5 years has been 1,006 days since we last saw Lonzo play basketball. Like seeing him back on the court just put a smile on my face. And then to see that first 3 go, and the game looked really smooth for Lonzo. You can still see the IQ. You can still see him setting up his teammates. You can see the 3 ball, no hesitation, always ready to shoot when he has some space. The defensive help, just the intelligence, the talking, like it's good to see Zoe back. I'm hoping that, tomorrow when he gets some time, the knee is responding well, and they can continue this medical plan of him of, playing just 16 minutes or somewhere around there a night until he's ready to go. But man, so happy to see him.
His shot was a far cry from when he first came in the league. And remember, he started like at his hip. He had to unsheath it like a sword. It was like he came out from one side and he went around in a half circle. I mean, he's worked on that shot. He's really changed it. But yeah, when I saw him shoot, I was like, oh man, remember that?
So different.
So different. The hair's different too. He had that big fro coming out. Yeah, great to see Lonzo Ball back. How do you see him fitting in with the rest of this team? Because you start to see it come together. Giddey started, Kobe White started, Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams, Vooch. That seems to be what their starting 5 is going to be. And then you got Lonzo coming off the bench. You got Megan Thee Stallion's boyfriend coming off the bench. You have Taylor Horton-Tucker and some others.
Listen, Chicago has a lot of guards. That's the thing with them where it's like you got Kobe White, you got Josh Giddey, you got Zoe, you got Dosunmu, you got Javon Carter, you got THT.
We're not allowed to bring up Javon Carter on this show. It's a Pat the designer rule that we're not allowed to bring him.
Hey, listen, I'm gonna respect Pat. I got love for Pat, so I'll keep that up for him. But it'll be really interesting to see what they do with that logjam that they have at the guard position, because I think going into it, everyone assumes like it's going to be Josh Giddey. But if Lonzo is looking how he looked tonight consistently, I can see a world where it just makes more sense to start him next to Kobe White, because he gives you that defense that Giddey doesn't.
The thing about that is this Bulls team, and I think the announcer said it a couple times during the game, they're kind of walking 2 lines here with their vets and their young guys. It's like, which team do we want to be? Do we want to be this young team with Patrick Williams and Kobe White and some of these other guys that we just drafted? Or do we want to be this older team, this veteran team? They're still, even though they've, DeRozan is gone, Alex Caruso is gone, they're still kind of riding that line. And Giddey represents, the face of their young guys. So to me, I don't think you can make that move. If you do, it's maybe for Kobe White, but I just don't think he can make that move with Giddey. He's too important to their future.
I mean, he could be a super sub his first year. He can be 6-man off the bench, whatever the case may be for him. But Giddey, I think he's going to be good in Chicago. I've been saying that since the trade was announced, although he hasn't looked, better than average, I would say, throughout the preseason, but it's early, learning a new system, so on and so forth. So I have some grace for him. But even if they do some things where they have Giddey out there with Zoe in some type of combination, just given their size, like you got a 6'8" Giddey with like a 6'7" Lonzo, that could be an interesting backcourt look for them as well, just given the fact that they don't really have too much size in the front court outside of Vucevic.
Coming up, let's talk about the Pistons. What did we see from Cade Cunningham with this new look lineup that gives him a little bit more spacing? We'll talk about that and some Heat takes and more coming up. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has all kinds of props and odds, things that you can use to get in on the action. And if you want to start the season with a big return, it's America's #1 sportsbook, exactly where you can. If you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, live play-by-play, so much more on the same place where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Go check out opening night, see what is available. They've got the Timberwolves. We were just talking about them against the Lakers in LA. Normally we'd see Lakers odds here. Timberwolves 2-point favorite against the Lakers right there. Follow the Lakers. Check out that one. They also have the Celtics 5-point favorite against the Knicks on opening night. Go see anything else they have there. They have finals odds, division. What are we still? Who even is in divisions anymore? Minnesota, not even a favorite to win their division. The Thunder -165. Go check it out. See what is available on FanDuel. Again, it's FanDuel.com. Count it up. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA, being part of the show, being in every day or listening every day. Appreciate you and every one of you for checking out the show. For a daily show that covers your team, check the link in the description, like Locked On Mavs, Locked On Bucks, Locked On Timberwolves, Locked On Bulls, all kinds of great shows in there. And they will be there for you 5 days a week, all through the season, no matter if they win or lose. They've got to do a show, right? That's the point here. All right, Camille, let's talk about Cavs versus the Pistons. We got to see like 7.5 minutes of the Pistons starters. They sat them, but we got to see Cade Cunningham with some more spacing. And I just felt so good for Koo from Locked On Pistons. Like, at least they're going to put a competent offense around Cade. And that's what stood out to me in this game, is just that we saw Cade with spacing, and there's just so much more room for him to operate. In the first couple minutes, I just said Cade has so much more room. And it was a dunk fest for Duren because they were just throwing the ball around. Tobias Harris getting wide open corner threes. It just looked like, okay, finally we have a cohesive offensive unit there.
It's a team that makes sense finally. It makes sense on the floor. And
one side of the ball.
I mean, listen, I'm just happy the Pistons have adults in the room on that team now. Like, it makes a difference having those vets. And this is, I believe, like the fifth different starting lineup that we've seen from the Pistons, because Biggerstaff has mentioned, like, I'm just trying things out. And the fact that as he should, but the fact that this starting lineup got to like an early 10-point lead over a Cavs team that was playing their starters as well and trying to ramp up for the regular season, it shows some hope of what they can be.
I don't think this Cavs team was trying to ramp up for anything. I was watching that game going, they're just like bunched up like kindergarten players, like playing soccer. Just like they're all over that Cavs team. I don't know if I take much away from them in this game. They were just flying all around the place. But you mentioned it. The starting lineup of Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Tim Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris, and Jalen Duren. It did look pretty good. You have the two shooters. You have Jaden Ivey as a slasher, Cade Cunningham as the guy that makes it all work. And Duren got 3 dunks like right off the bat from that spacing and from that, that playmaking. So yeah, it just looked nice. It looked nice around Cade. And what do you expect from Cade this season if he's going to have spacing like that?
I think he's going to have a good season. I think the Pistons are going to win the most games that they have since the last time they made it to the playoffs. So that's back the 2018-19 year. They went, I believe, 41-41. They were the 8th seed, played the Bucks in the first round. That's when Blake Griffin gave his whole soul and body to that run, and it just did not work out. But, I mean, to do that, they only need to win like 24 games to surpass all the win totals since they went 41-41. I see it happening, Nick. It sounds profound, but when you break it down, they just got to win 24, and I can see that for the Pistons.
I was going to say, they won 41 games that year. 20, 20, 23, 17, 14, and now this season. Oh my gosh. They don't have a long way to go in order to break that win total.
It feels good to say it. I think it's going to happen.
It does. It felt good to say it, and then it just sounded really easy after you pointed out how many wins it actually was. Like, oh, they still got to do it though, right? You still got to go out there and play the games. Oh,
I think they will. I mean, I think their over under this season too is like 25.5. Like they could technically come under. They're over under for the season and still win more games than they have since 2019. It's crazy. But no, seriously though, I do like how this Pistons team is shaping up. I think that they're going to be more competitive than they have been. Not competitive enough to like make a lot of noise in the East, but I think the play-in race is a good goal for them. Not even making it, but just being in the race. That's a good goal this year.
Is there Bucks Pistons like rivalry? Is there heat between fans there?
Not really, unless it's from the Pistons side, because Bucks fans don't really think too much about the Pistons. It's kind of like how Packer fans feel about the Vikings, where it's like, cool, just don't think about you too much.
It's the madman in the elevator meme. Yeah. Okay. So on the next team that we want to talk about is the Hawks versus the Heat. The Heat. Second night of a back-to-back, they played all their guys again, and let's just start with that first. The Heat culture, they culture too much.
Listen, it's a different culture when you're playing a back-to-back in the preseason, and their starters are in both. Like the rotation played in both games, and I do get it. It was a makeup game because of Hurricane Milton and everything like that. But seeing that they had their starters playing on a back-to-back in the preseason, and I think they have a stretch of like 4 games in 6 days. It's some tight grouping for their preseason games here, but Heat culture is culturing, but it's looking like it might be good for Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, you got 20 minutes from him and 24 minutes for Jovic and everybody, all the other starters in between that. It's wild they played 20 minutes on the second night of a back-to-back in the preseason. But we saw the start. We saw Jimmy Butler, 24 points for him, 5 boards, 3 assists, 3 steals. Played good. Looks like he's ramping up into the season. I want to ask a question about Jimmy Butler though, because I saw this clip from his. This is a bonus counted up. I saw this clip from his documentary on Netflix.
Yeah, starting 5.
Starting 5. He said, "Basketball, I'm okay at it, but the greatest domino player in the world is myself. 0, you know the game, 0 to 5 caps."
I'm going to say this, and this is going to sound funny. I'm going to give him 2 caps on that. And here's why. Part of being one of the best dominoes player, spades player, whatever type of game this is, a backyard barbecue game, irrational confidence is part of the game. Like, you have to go in there because you got to talk. If you're going to talk trash, I can hear the trash talking when you down, when you up, just consistently through. So, like, he might be really nice at them dominoes. I appreciate the confidence that he has.
You just wonder, because we have those games in my family too, but you only play against your family. Like you only play, like that's your competition is that group. So maybe he's the greatest of all time in his family. How far has he gone out? Has he gone to tournaments? I'm sure there are dominoes tournaments. Has he gone down to, I went to the Dominican this summer. There's all kinds of people playing dominoes down there. Yeah. Did he go down there and challenge those?
He's a cookout champ. He's a cookout champ.
At his own though. That's my question.
You know.
For the Heat, though, we saw this starting lineup: Jimmy Butler, Nikola Jovic, Bam, Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier. After the game, Eric Spoelstra was asked about the Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier backcourt. He says, "I don't understand why people would question Tyler and Terry working. First of all, hearing Tyler and Terry, this doesn't give me confidence in that backcourt. But what do you think about the Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier backcourt? And do you have confidence that it'll work?"
It's a weird backcourt given the fact that neither is like a traditional point guard to get you set up, to set other players up. They're kind of relying on like a playmaking by committee formula here. The defense is the question, especially look at Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier, the size for him, but we've seen him strap up every so often when it comes down to it. So like, I get why there are questions around it just because it's kind of like, well, who's really running the show here? But for him to not understand why anybody doesn't have any questions is beyond me. Like there's room for a few. There's room for a few.
I mean, you could question it. My problem is like, who's going to replace them? It's the obvious choice, right? Like, unless Josh Richardson becomes the player that he once was. He didn't play in this game, but unless he does that, I mean, Jaime Jaquez, I think they have to bring him off the bench. Like watching in this game, they did like a 4 subs in for at the in the first quarter, and you go, oh, Jaime Jaquez has to be on this bench because who's going to score coming off their bench? Duncan Robinson's got to be set up a little bit. I guess he can do some here or there. You got Hayward Highsmith. He had 16 in this game, but you just need that guy that can get you some buckets every once in a while. And I think Jaime Jaquez, that one's for Pat too. He's that guy for them, and I think he's got to come off the bench. So what are their options besides Tyler and Terry? Which doesn't sound.
First, Tyler and Terry sounds like a sitcom of some sort. Like I kind of want to see it. But,
Tyler and Terry Perry.
Right. Gotta go with the alliteration. But no, I'm like thinking about
Big Spo's house.
Now I'm thinking about in the house with LL Cool J, but I'm picturing Spo's face in there instead. See, you're getting me off topic here, Nick. You're making me think of random sitcoms that this could be.
That's the goal of Locked On NBA, really.
But the bench, like I'm with you with Jaime Jaquez having to be the guy who kind of runs it. But I do wonder if Highsmith is going to kind of have to be that new Caleb Martin for the Heat, where it's like you're going to be the guy who we're going to count on to knock down some threes and check the other team's best offensive player. In the preseason, he's looked pretty good in that role, but as the competition ramps up and the season continues to go on, we'll see how it looks. But if Highsmith can be that, even a cheap man version of what Caleb Martin brought them, that should do them some good off the bench as well.
Did you call him a cheap man version?
He could be. He'd be a cheap man version.
A cheap man. I don't know why I've never heard that. A cheap man version. I've heard like great value version. I've heard like the poor man's. You want cheap man.
First thing that came to mind, you know what I'm saying? Cheap man version.
Coming up, not the cheap man version of a good segment here on Locked On NBA. It's Counted Up, where we count out the most interesting, fun things in the NBA. And we're going to start with this Blazers versus this team from Germany from the Bundesliga. Their broadcast was insane. And we're going to tell you why coming up. Count it up. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by Hims. Your sex life is important, but your schedule is busy. Mine is, yours is, everyone's is. You don't have the time to go to the doctor's office to get treated for ED. Through Hims, you get a personalized ED treatment without stepping foot outside your door. Hims is changing men's healthcare by providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. They provide a range of different doctor-trusted ED treatments, chewable hard mints, Viagra, Cialis, or the generics for up to 95% cheaper. 95. They wrote that word out instead of writing 9.5. I appreciate that. The process is 100% online, so there's no need for uncomfortable doctor visits. No insurance is needed. A one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's Hims, HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. Hims.com/lockedon. The products mentioned are chewable, compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details on important safety information. Subscription required. Prices vary based on product and subscription plan.
Big chicken, baby.
Zion Williamson and porn star.
Take that for that.
Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up.
It's Counted Up, where we count out the most interesting, fun things in the NBA. Let's start with this. The Blazers played a team from Germany. My last name is Angstadt. Don't speak German, but they're from the Bundesliga. And their broadcast on League Pass, Camille and I are flipping back and forth on it. And there's no broadcast team. So there's no announcers.
Nope.
There's no arena sounds. So you don't get the bounce of the ball. You don't get the cheer of the crowd. Nothing. You just got the PA announcer just calling out who is coming into the game and who scored and just that. And then every once in a while you could hear arena sounds and the PA announcer like left his mic open. And then DJ sounds. So whenever they play the like defense or like the sounds or whatever, like the DJ sounds. My question on this one is,
Count it up.
could you watch an entire season of your favorite team if that was the only option? Camille, you can watch the Bucks, but it has to be this version.
Oh my gosh.
That's the only way.
That is such a terrible way to watch a basketball game, to not even hear the ball bounce. You can't hear.
Yeah, you can't even hear it bounce. Can't hear the net swish, nothing.
I saw like dunks and you can tell they're all hyped, but you couldn't tell how hyped they were because you couldn't hear it. It sucked. But if that was my only option, of course I'm going to deal with it. I would probably mute that though and just play my own music.
Just
in
go
the background. Mute. Like I'm gonna make my home BW3s at that point. We're just gonna make it a club. The game is on. I got some music playing. At least what I want to hear. So like it's all good, man.
I think eventually I would go to a YouTube like 3 hours of crowd noise like background thing and just play it in the background. It was so jarring watching somebody like watching a dunk and just like hearing nothing. Like just hearing like so what a dunk. I get who even played in this game. Who even played? Who can I even use as this example? Hearing a dunk would be like DeAndre Ayton. And that was it. Like that's all you would hear after a dunk. It was wild.
Didn't like it. Did not like.
Benny the Bull had a missing cat KAT poster up during the Wolves introduction tonight when the Bulls were playing the Wolves. He was like at this poster board. He was standing like right around the Timberwolves huddle. My question is, do you like the bit or should he saved it for the regular season?
I love it. I love it. But if you do something like this, Benny, when the regular season comes around, you got one more chance at this. I'm gonna need you to step it up.
Yeah, it's got to be better. That's my thing about it. It was a really good bit, but did you waste it on a preseason game? I guess it was Julius Randle's first time there and the first time without Cat. But yeah, I just feel like you wasted a really good bit there. Can you do it? I guess again. Can you do it again?
Listen, if you're going to be that petty in the preseason, I expect you to up the pettiness in the regular season. Like you better come with, I need to see something that would make TikTok be like, dang, we need to do a little investigative thread on this one. Like I need to see high petty levels come regular season after this.
I need him in like a Dr. Evil costume holding a stuffed cat with cats with like actual cat's face on it. Like you got to up it now. He's got to be better. You're right about that.
Something. I need like Missing You by Case playing while they got like montages of cat's face and like Benny the Bull's grabbing out in the air. I need something.
Missing you. We mentioned Sabrina Ionescu hit a dagger game-winning 3 against Minnesota in the WNBA Finals to win Game 3. It was very reminiscent of a shot that I was in the building for. Luka Doncic, game winner, in the same building against Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals. That was in Game 2. My question is, if you're a Minnesota basketball fan, which one hurt worse? The Luka one? They had won Game 1, and the shot was for them to go up, to the Mavs to go up 2-0. So the Timberwolves had lost both of their home games. It was a Western Conference Finals, not the finals. This one is... So Sabrina's was a final shot where the Liberty go up 2-1 and one more win and they win the series.
Here's what I'm going to say about this one. I'm going to say that the Luka one was more heartbreaking because at least Minnesota fans have sustained experienced success with the Lynx in the past. So it's it's not the first finals run. As for the Timberwolves, it was the first time they had even been in the Western Conference Finals in decades. So like that one probably hurt a bit more.
The fact that it was also on Gobert, like just the way that arena sounded, like I can still vividly hear it where it was so loud and then just went to nothing. There was just no noise in the arena. It was so wild. It was almost like watching that Blazers preseason game because there's just no noise after it. But I don't know, a finals, yeah, they had all that success with Maya Moore. They have a bunch of those banners up there. It's funny to see all the Lynx banners and the Timberwolves arena. Yeah, there's nothing for the Timberwolves really. Division banners. But yeah, I mean that was kind of their chance, and it was a Western Conference Finals instead of a final. So I think I'll go the Lynx one hurt worse because that was a dagger shot. Oh my gosh, in a finals. You
just heard that whole arena just quiet, just didn't know what to do with themselves. It's one of those moments where you don't know what to do with your hands too. You're just in the audience, and you're just looking around like, did this really just happen? Is this for real? It was real.
It was real, and it was wild. And didn't she throw up in a bucket? Like she threw up in a trash can. Like
I think so, yeah.
Like
she didn't look great early in that game. So for her to come out in the fourth and just really turn it on, like that hurts even more.
Insane. So yeah, we think the WNBA one hurts a little worse. What hurt everyone a little bit today? Aaron Baines announced his retirement from the NBA. Aaron Baines, just a generic role player that not a lot of people knew about, but you know who did know about him? The Aaron Baines unofficial fan club on Twitter. 56,000 followers. He got kind of viral during Aaron Baines' career. You don't know about the Aaron Baines fan club?
Not hip to that one.
The Aaron Baines fan club was, to me, I think one of the first like meme or fan accounts or muse accounts, basically, and it just became this meme. Aaron Baines found out about it, and like it has 56,000 followers, so it became this really big hit for this random role player, basically. So my question is, did the Aaron Baines fan club account basically start this era of muse and fan accounts? And I say yes, because I think it was one of the first ones, especially a player that was random. It wasn't
yes.
wasn't LeBron, wasn't Curry, wasn't Luka, like wasn't one of these players. It was just this random. So now we have, I don't know, for the Mavs, they have a Quentin Grimes muse now.
Yeah.
they had an Alex Fudge one. He was like an end of the bench guy. It was on a 2-way.
From what you said, it sounds like this might have been the genesis of these type of fan clubs. And you said it's 56,000 followers. I guarantee you there's not many bots in that followers list. I guarantee you it's probably just the most diehard fans. It's probably a real unique and beautiful community where they actually know, like, oh yeah, these are real people here. Like, this is a real fan base.
Only real ones follow the Aaron Baines fan club. So RIP to the Aaron Baines fan club, because Aaron Baines has gone off into the sunset for his NBA career. Shout out to you, and shout out to the fan account who started all this insaneness on Twitter of Muse and fan accounts. I don't know. Is that a good legacy? I don't know.
Listen, if it's for Aaron, like if it's for Baines, like it's decent. That's decent. But seeing how the world has transpired since with all of the different muses, maybe it wasn't. But hey, I guess you could blame like First Take or something like that. We can find a way to blame First Take for everything.
Maybe it wasn't. Oh my gosh. There you go. Let us know in the comment section on YouTube or on Spotify or anywhere else what you thought about Julius Randle's debut, what you thought about Lonzo Ball's debut. Go check out Locked On Bucks. Go check out Locked On Mavs. We got great stuff all throughout the week covering our teams. And then be back tomorrow. We've got great stuff as well. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On NBA. Follow, subscribe wherever you're listening, watching this. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On NBA. Boom.